Hello and welcome to the season finale of Red Wolf Roundtable. I'm Jake Caton alongside Mr. Caton Marsh and Miss Julie McKee joining us on the show today. Lots to talk about, lots of baseball to talk about, and also some basketball transfers as well. And the NFL draft results, which Red Wolves went to the NFL this week in the draft. Also, one thing I do want to note while we have the time, A-State men's golf currently playing right now in the Sun Belt Conference semifinals. So wish them well for sure. But yeah, we've got a lot to talk about on the show today, so stay tuned, and we'll be back right after this.
Students should watch ASU-TV just to see the creativity that a college student can get. The creativity that some of these students have is truly amazing. Getting that experience can really just take you further, and I feel like our program does that for a lot of students.
Red Wolf Radio is a student-led organization at Arkansas State University wanting to hear your takes on pop culture, music, the news, and college life. Just about anything you can think of. Located in the Education and Communications building on campus, we are always looking for more volunteers. So if you're an Arkansas State University student, no matter the major, and this is something that interests you, shoot us an email at redwolfradio@astate.edu. That's redwolfradio@astate.edu. Let them hear you howl.
I think one of the things I learned at Arkansas State was life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you respond to it, and that's just something that I live by.
A-State is home, and they're going to treat you like you're a part of the family.
Welcome back, as we will be talking about the transfer portal. We've got some transfers in for the men's and the women's. They both continue to rack up the transfers out of the portal. Amadou Doumbia comes to us from Bali, I do believe, and he'll be playing for the Red Wolves. He's 6'11", pretty tall guy. Going to be kind of taking over that center position that Tunkara left. So he'll have a good spot to fill on the team.
Yeah, this guy will fill the shoes of, obviously, said Ali, and then Chudy as well. I don't believe we have a lot of height on this team outside of freshman Grayson Bennett, and I think he'll be more of a forward than a center than anything. So this will hunker down that position that is the biggest concern for the A-State men's basketball, because obviously the height game was our biggest problem, even though we had a lot of it. That being said, this guy, I would say, is a developmental starter. He didn't really play too much where he's coming from. He had some minutes, didn't get as much playing time as probably someone like Ali, but I believe he can fill that role. Hopefully, Coach Ryan Pannone uses him in the way that a big should be used. This guy isn't a shooter, just kind of like Ali was. He wasn't a shooter. So use the height to your advantage in the paint, and I hopefully fills in that role perfectly.
And for the women's team, we get Maya Chicano out of UC Riverside. She comes to us for the women's side of things. Yep,
this is another big. So we got two bigs for both men's and women's. I believe she is going into her senior year. I think 6'1", so she'll be kind of that Winter Rogers role, even though I don't think Winter was a center. I think her and Allie Ferguson, who we didn't get to see a lot play this year, will kind of complement each other, who that be coming off the bench. We'll find out come season time. One of the things that I do question is I don't believe she's a three-point shooter. And obviously, Coach Des being the coach she is, she likes that three-point shot. So maybe we can see the high percentage three be picked up because she didn't really have it where she's transferring from. But overall, I think this just is overall going to help the team more, just kind of like our men's transfer, get that hype bolstered down, hopefully help the rebound game. I think let the guard shoot, and go from there.
All right, some good signees for the A-State Red Wolves on both the men's and women's teams. Speaking of signees, we had a few in the NFL. A few of our football stars get signed by NFL teams after the draft this past week. Caton, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited for these guys. Unfortunately, we didn't have any of them drafted, even day 3, but we had 2 guys signed, obviously one being the name that everybody loves, Corey Rucker. He signs with Las Vegas pretty much immediately after the draft ends, so that's a good sign for Corey. He'll be joining his former A-State teammate, Kieron Crawford, who was drafted in the 3rd round to Las Vegas, of course. This Las Vegas team is rather weak at receiver. You guys got Trey Tucker, but I think Corey has a good shot as long as he puts the work ethic in. We know Corey, him as a human being, he's going to put that work in. So he can climb to the top. Just because you're undrafted doesn't mean you can't make your way to a starting roster. We have a lot of good stories. Someone from Arkansas, Mr. Jason Peters, had an illustrious career, played for the Eagles, some for the Cowboys. And then we had Trent Allen Yao, who got signed by the Tennessee Titans, just like Corey Rucker, signed right immediately after the draft. So another good sign. One of the things that I want to point out is that the Tennessee Titans did spend a lot of money in that defensive back position room this year. So it will be a little bit harder compared to what Corey has to go through. But what Trent Allen Yao did at App State and Arkansas State, especially this year and coverage-wise, he has the length, he has the size, he has the speed. So he can play that boundary corner kind of alongside Alontae Taylor, who they signed from the Saints. And I think he's a perfect fit for Tennessee. It's not far from here, about 4 hours. So congrats to those guys. Some of the guys that didn't get signed that I expect to see somewhere else, maybe the CFL, maybe the UFL. DeMarcus Hendricks, our edge rusher who played phenomenal at the end of the year, especially at Xbox Bowl. Kyle Taylor, inside linebacker that is very versatile, very agile, great in coverage. And then I've heard some other names. I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but they're working on the CFL, so I'll keep that behind closed doors just in case we don't get in trouble. But expect some guys to make some other roles in these other professional leagues.
All right. Well, thank you for your insight, and congratulations to both Trent Allen Yao and Corey Rucker on their signings with NFL. We wish them the best, of course, from Arkansas State. To the big show. So we'll be right back as we will talk about some baseball coming up here on Red Wolf Roundtable. Got news for you. There it is.
Students should watch ASU-TV just to see the creativity that a college student can get.
I think one of the things I learned at Arkansas State was life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you respond to it, and that's just something that I live by.
A-State is home, and they're going to treat you like you're a part of the family.
Welcome back here on Red Wolf Roundtable as the Red Wolves struggle a little bit on the diamond at home this weekend against the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana. Talk about that here with us is Miss Julia McKee, the baseball specialist of the show that we have. So first game, an A-State loss 2-3. Let's talk about that one a little bit. What did you see in that game?
This one was a heartbreaker. We got a lead. We had the 2-0 lead, and it was really good. Our two were off of a Patrick Ingskove and Cason Campbell bomb. Pat's 8th and Cason 6th. And so we were like, okay, morale's high. We got Patrick's in the first inning. And so I was like, okay, this is a really good start because we knew this was going to be a tough weekend. We knew that the Raging Cajuns were going to be a good team to play. And so this was a really good lead. We were really excited. Andrew Allen did really good, filling in for that Chase Richter position with him being out after his surgery. And then even Cooper Garrison coming in and closing it out for us. So we were there, and then we weren't. They knew how to hit the gaps, and they knew how to make plays, and they ended up pulling it through in the end, and it was just a tough loss.
Andrew Allen with 7 innings pitched and 9 strikeouts. It's a career high for him. Talking about, coming into that Chase Richter position, he did really good at filling his shoes. Cooper Garrison with 2 innings pitched and 2 strikeouts with a walk. Second game, a A-State loss 5-11. That was a 10-inning game, but 5-11 doesn't really show that was a 10-inning game. So let's talk about that one a little bit.
This one was a heartbreaker. Like the first one multiplied because this one 10 innings. We were 5-5. We had them, and we were like, okay, we've got this. And then top of the 10th came, and we were like, holy crap. We were like, oh, my goodness. They were just base hit after base hit. They were hitting the gaps, and they were really good base running. Like, they were smart, and then they were making good plays. Their pitching was really good as well. But even with bases loaded, we had that Evan Griffiths catch out in right center, and diving catch. It saved the game at the time because that was in the 9th. And so we were like, okay, that was kind of like our morale booster of maybe we can pull this out. And we didn't. But it was a phenomenal catch at the time.
I think, one of the things I wanted to add before we get into the last game was I kind of felt like this series, we talked about it before, this wasn't our strongest opponent that we faced, but obviously a familiar face being in the top 25 as they were ranked a couple months ago. But that being said, it just seems like the offense wasn't as good as it usually is. We didn't really have those first 2 games especially. It wasn't a big hit game. There were a lot of strikeouts, huge strikeout numbers. I think the first or second game we had 13 strikeouts. So pitching was obviously really good for Louisiana. It did seem like some of the defensive cues were off in certain manners, making simple errors here and there. Obviously, I think the pitching did pretty well in certain aspects, but it kind of lacked sometimes. But overall, I think it was just a disappointing weekend. Not something that you should be too concerned about, but overall just a poor performance by Arkansas State. And obviously, you don't want to drag the guys when they're down, but that's what it was.
I hate to use the E word, which is emotional, but this team, sometimes when we go into a tough weekend and we don't start it the way that we want, it does kind of put us a little behind, especially on trying to turn around the very next day. And even on the first game, we didn't leave the ballpark till 11:30 at night, and I left before majority of the team. So when you're there into the early morning of the next game day, it kind of alters your mindset. And so I think that they struggle a little bit with leaving that game behind and coming into the next game. But we did do that very well going from Saturday to Sunday, I will say.
Absolutely. Sunday is the A-State win, 8-3. This is the win that they salvaged from the series. We had some really good looks in this game. A pair of homers. I'll let y'all talk about that.
I do want to mention one of the things that even though we lost the series, this game was still really important. Because, once again, the Sun Belt is a power conference for baseball. Obviously, you have people like Southern Miss. You have Coastal Carolina. You have Arkansas State. ULM, surprisingly, Louisiana. And one of the stats that they showed on the ESPN Plus was that about 6 teams were tied for conference record. So for the tournament upcoming, going into Sunday, Louisiana and Arkansas State were tied. So even though morale was low, series can't be captured, of course, Arkansas State still had to go into this game with the clear mindset that they had to win because of the fact that conference standings are so important as they are right now. Kind of like basketball, kind of like what we saw at the end of the year, that so many teams were neck and neck for that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 seed, that Arkansas State, because of the last few games, they got pushed back so far down. So to go into this last game, even losing the series and winning in a fashionable manner, I believe 8-3, seeing that offense that we love to see every week, they won, and this is going to be huge for tournament and conference standings.
Absolutely, absolutely. You got anything to say on this game?
This game was the morale booster that our team needed. They were super excited after this game, especially coming off of the 2 losses. We talked about it after the game, me and Derek Martinez. We have 3 series left. 3 weekends, 9 games to prove that our team deserves to be in the tournament and that they have earned the right to do well. And I think that this game, especially with our Caton Campbell and Evan Griffiths homers, and then Lane Walton is making contact with the ball again, which even Coach mentioned it in the post-game huddle, and he was like, I'm excited that you're making contact with the ball again, because our team kind of takes turns. You know, like Lane Walton had a really hot start, and then he kind of faded out. And then Caton Campbell picked back up, and then Evan Griffiths. And then they literally take turns on doing well and learning from their mistakes. And so I think Lane Walton is finally on the come up. He's learning that small ball is just as important as hitting it over the fence. And so I think we're learning, and I think we're growing as a team. It really makes me excited because we have a bunch of really great players, and they're really great people, and they're finally learning where they fit in the lineup and in the dugout. And I think that this is setting the tone for the remainder of the season going into the conference tournament.
Absolutely. I wanted to touch on Dylan Farley. Went 5.1 innings with only 1 strikeout, but he did improve to 7-1 on the season for his record. A great Sunday guy that we have in Dylan Farley. And then, of course, the weather canceled our midweek game against UALR, but we will get a rematch with them this coming week, which we will talk about after this break. Stay tuned here on Red Wolf Roundtable.
Students should watch ASU-TV just to see the creativity that a college student can get. The creativity that some of these students have is truly amazing. Getting that experience can really just take you further, and I feel like our program does that for a lot of students.
Red Wolf Radio is a student-led organization at Arkansas State University wanting to hear your takes on pop culture, music, the news, and college life. Just about anything you can think of. Located in the Education and Communications building on campus, we are always looking for more volunteers. So if you're an Arkansas State University student, no matter the major, and this is something that interests you, shoot us an email at redwolfradio@astate.edu. That's redwolfradio@astate.edu. Let them hear you howl.
I think one of the things I learned at Arkansas State was life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you respond to it, and that's just something that I live by.
A-State is home, and they're going to treat you like you're a part of the family.
Welcome back here on Red Wolf Roundtable as we wrap things up. Baseball this weekend at Old Dominion. I believe this is the farthest that the team has to travel this season. and they will start tomorrow, Friday, and they'll play a doubleheader Friday, and then I guess there's some weather incoming on Saturday, and so they will play the last game on Sunday. What can we expect from this series, and what implications does this series have?
So ODU is 22-22 over this season, 9-12 in the conference. So they're not very strong. They're not very strong in taking the series either. But I still think that this is going to be a big weekend, especially, like I said, we're nearing the end. This is our last month of ball. So I think that this weekend is going to boost their morale and their mindset for what's to come as soon as this regular season ends.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she kind of summed it up. Was the conference record is a thing to look at, being 9-12, obviously not great. But that being said, it's still kind of in that range of where we were talking about earlier, where it's in that neck and neck area for standings. So that being said, Old Dominion hasn't swept anybody but Georgia Southern, and they have not won a single series outside of Georgia Southern for Sun Belt opponents. So that's pretty important. It puts a lot of, morale into the team. Hopefully not too much pressure when we're speaking on it. That seems to happen every now and then. Old Dominion, I wouldn't say is an overly strong team. Obviously, what you said, being 22-22, their opponents haven't been the greatest. Not really anybody of stature that someone like we've played outside of Southern Miss. So overall, I think we have a pretty good shot to win the series. Maybe we see a sweep, but it's still going to be important for conference standings because that record is pretty close to what we have right now.
Especially with this doubleheader, I think that really changes the ballgame. I was doing a little research on Old Dominion, and they have a really good pitcher, and his name's Darren. And he's got 44 strikeouts. It's him and one other guy. They kind of just bounce back and forth. And so I think that going into this doubleheader is really going to change their defensive perspective, and I think that if our Red Wolves play it right, I think that's something that they can capitalize on. As soon as they figure out what makes that pitcher, I think they can take those two ball games.
Absolutely. And then the midweek game this week is at Little Rock. A game that we didn't get to play this past week because it was canceled by weather. So we've got Little Rock coming up again this coming week. But I want to talk about the series coming up the week after that and the implications of that series because it's a little more important. Texas State comes to town. So Texas State kind of in the same boat as Arkansas State is right now. We looked earlier at the NCAA field for the college baseball World Series and regional tournaments. Texas State is in the first four in. Arkansas State is in the first four out. So big implications for this series coming up against Texas State.
Texas State's a strong team. They're strong. They swept Louisiana, which we could not do, and they swept Georgia State, and they even beat Texas A&M. So this is going to be a really strong team, but they are 10-11 in conference. So it kind of makes you look at it and you're like, But I think that their wins outweigh those losses. Like, they are winning against strong teams, and when they are losing not that much. Like, they're losing by maybe 4 at max. But then they turn around and they lost to Southern Miss. Got swept by them, actually. So I think Texas State is a strong team. I think that they're going to be difficult for our Red Wolves to play. But I think with us being at home and we've had the crowds, we've had the fan engagement, we've broken the midweek and series attendance records. We have that support behind us. I think that this is going to be a big weekend, especially with that projection in the back of our minds. I think this is going to be a great way to end our home series.
I think she summed it up perfectly. I don't think there's really much I need to add outside of just we obviously have pointed across that the conference is the strongest that it's been in a long time, and those neck-and-neck standings are going to be the caterer of what our future is, but that being the last series being a homestand, hopefully the fans show out in a fashionable manner, kind of like what they've been doing these past few weeks, but just continue what you've been doing. Hopefully you just clean up those mental mistakes, those minor errors, and keep the offense rolling.
After Texas State, we have one more series in the season against South Alabama. And that one should also be a fun one. That is at South Alabama. That is the last series of the season before the Sun Belt Conference Tournament. And we won't be around to cover that, but we will definitely be paying attention, and hopefully you will be too. I guess that's about it. I really don't know what to say. This is mine and Caton's last show. And so we will be missing it very much. And we will be watching as we hand the show off to Miss Julia McKee and her co-host Luke Dunlap, who couldn't be here today. But we wish you both the best. And we know that you'll do great with it. And me and Caton are moving on to bigger and better things. But we really appreciate all of you viewers and everyone who's watched the show and been faithful to us throughout the past year. And a special thank you to Mr. Tristan Harlan and Cooper Melder for giving us this position. And we're about to hand that off just as they did to somebody else.
Yeah. Obviously, it's a short tenure of Red Wolf Roundtable. You didn't get to see us much. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the time that we spent. Me and Jacob obviously come from a community college, so we had some background before. But obviously, that chemistry probably wasn't as prevalent at the beginning, and I think we kind of grew together, and that meshed pretty well. Obviously, we had some difficulties throughout the season, that being camera work had to get redone. Hopefully you guys like the new cameras, but yeah, we've enjoyed our time. I think this strengthens us as people and broadcasters, maybe even television hosts. So I think we've had a lot of fun. Overall, it's highlighted sports maybe in areas that we don't normally watch. One of them being, for me, volleyball. I really enjoyed the season that we got to see from our 8-state volleyball team. But overall, this has been a very fun experience. And obviously, with Julia and Luke taking over, I think you guys are going to be in great hands for multiple years to come. They spend a lot of time in A-State athletics. They're at the games, whether it be filming them or working them through productions. So they're with them quite constantly. They put a lot of work in. The effort's always there. I'm sure you've seen from the episodes with Julia and even the short one with Luke. They do their research. They love what they're talking about. And this is, I guess, us signing out for good. But we have loved every single moment of it.
Well, thank you, Caton, for being my co-host for this past year.
Thank
I really enjoyed it. For one final time, Jacob Cater, Caton Marsh, and Julia McKee, thank you for watching Red Wolf Roundtable. Wolves up.